Hutman, class of 1993. He got an architecture degree from Princeton in 93. He decorated on Robert Altman's Kansas City and in Lolita, as well as Quentin Tarantino's urban crime drama Jackie Brown. Did the set decorating, that sort of soon led to production and designing projects in feature films and television. Designing the pilot of critically acclaimed television series House MD, which little known fact about House MD. You want to tell?
What is it?
Isn't he based on Glenn?
Oh, well, only Mark knows.
Only Mark knows. The rumor that House was based loosely on Glenn Nelson. But Hutman was set on a path of other notable television projects, including production design for Fastlane, the pilot for Justice, and the pilot for a series of Viva Laughlin. Mark's feature film career includes the comedy Smother, starring Diane Keaton and Liv Tyler. Mark teamed up with director Jonas Pete on Shrink, a dramedy starring Kevin Spacey and Robin Williams, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. I'm sure you've probably heard of that. Hutman considers his work on Glee to be some of his best to date. Mark earned multiple Art Directors Guild nominations for excellence in production design, as well as an Emmy Award nomination for his work on Glee. Please welcome Mark Hutman.
Gratitude is a big feeling for me being back here. Sam and Sabrina have done such a great job with Princeton volleyball, and things have changed a lot since I was here. Gratitude. Glenn Nelson was our coach before Sam came along, and Glenn was honored tonight. He's not here, which is unfortunate, but I think we should all give a round of applause for Glenn Nelson with his banner. 1,000 some odd victories for men's and women's team, winningest coach in the history of Princeton University. He had his own style, which was, I would argue, restrained. And those of us who played for him, Lauren Montgomery Clark, my co-speaker, would know. Maren Jaya, who's here, would know. By the way, co-presidents of Friends of Princeton Volleyball. How about a round of applause for them? So Glenn Nelson, that's a lot of victories. When I was a freshman, actually Maren Jaya, Lauren Montgomery Clark, and I were all freshmen at the same time. And I had a vested interest in women's team. That didn't sound right. Anyway, I had some notes for Glenn, because I went to a game and I thought, I was looking at the players, I was looking at the rotation, and something wasn't right. And I'm a student of the game. You have to be a student of the game if you're gonna play volleyball and be my height. And I went and I talked to him, and he said, well, you're really a student of the game. Maybe you should come by practice tomorrow. And I think his wheels were turning, and I didn't realize this, but I went to practice the next day, and I became the unofficial assistant coach for the next 4 years. Anyway, restrained coaching style, subtle genius, kind of like less is more. It was hard to get him to stand up. You know, he had an injury in his leg, and if he needed a timeout, he might not stand up because his leg was stiff. And I would be like, I'm the assistant coach of the women's team, and I'm playing on the men's team. Hey man, we need a timeout, big time. He doesn't want to stand up, and I'm telling the ref. The ref says, you can't call timeouts, but he wants a timeout. And it became a whole debacle. So then finally, there's a timeout. And he still won't get up. And he said, you wanted a timeout, you talk to him. So I did. But the good news was, back to Maren Jaya, gratitude to you, sir, my classmate, and played for the national team, probably the best men's player in the history of Princeton volleyball. Lucky for me, he was so strong academically, was a football player, 6'5", 220 pounds, whatever. he didn't need any help getting in. So what little juice Glenn had, he could funnel my way. And according to Glenn, I must have written some good essays because they found a spot for me. Princeton could use a guy like Mark, one of my friends said. Anyway, Martin, thank you. And you guys, I don't want to go overboard, but you don't know how much this guy does for the program. He's so generous. He's so polished. He is amazing. Marin, round of applause to you. Thank you for joining us. So circling back to my assistant coaching, which actually, because it started so early, it predated my playing. And Lauren Montgomery Clark was a freshman. I was a freshman. And I remember we traveled to Cornell for the Ivy League championships. And my father went to Cornell, but I had never been there. And it was my first time going there. And Coach Glenn Nelson said to me, Mark, do you know what I do when I get to Ithaca? First thing I always do when I get to Ithaca. I said, no, Glenn, what's that? He said, I put my coat on. Which is a point well taken. It's very cold up there. Anyway, the good news is we won the championship. Lauren Montgomery played like a superstar. And her family was there, and I was there, and it was the beginning of a great thing. One Ivy League victory in my pocket. Haven't even started playing yet. More gratitude. John Phelps, class of 1990, also from, Lauren and I grew up together in Pacific Palisades. John Phelps is from the same place, and he's not here with us, but we're thinking of him. And John decided to tell Glenn Nelson about me. He said, you know, you really got to check out this Mark Hutman guy. He's like not really tall enough to play at Stanford or UCLA, but he's a pretty good player, and his grades are pretty decent, and maybe we could just get him in here. It was like a backhanded compliment. And so John brought me out on my recruiting trip, and I met the coach, and we hit it off, and you know, they found a spot for me, and here I am. So John Phelps, thank you. Let's see. I hit Morin, I hit Laura Montgomery, John Phelps. I started off in the class in 1991, and I took some time off from school, ended up in the class in 1993. When I came back, I had a classmate who's no longer with us named Morgan McKenzie. May he rest in peace. Morgan was like a brother to me. I miss him and love him. And he was bigger, faster, stronger, and a better volleyball player than me. And we carry on his memory and his energy through various endowments. And I just wanted to say a word about it. His brother Wayne is here tonight, I believe. Wayne, are you here? Good to see you, man. And your wife, the McKenzies are an amazing family from Santa Monica. I did not know them until being here, where we keep in touch. And man, I just was so fortunate. This goes back to gratitude. Like, I had Marin on my team. I had Morgan on my team. I didn't really have to do that much. Like if I could serve the ball in the court or pass the ball to where the center could, these other people did so much. So I have a lot of gratitude. I hope that I fulfilled my role. I want to mention the Lucas family. I don't think they're here. I don't think anybody's here. Bounty Lucas not here. Bill and Ann Lucas. They hosted Princeton volleyball players back in our day in the late 80s, early 90s when we went out to California. And it sounds pretty luxurious what you guys are getting. I'm not discouraging donations or fundraising, but Princeton Volleyball West, Bill Lucas hosted us. And as a matter of fact, he had a orientation, Lauren, maybe you remember, where we were accepted and you go over to the house and he has this big, beautiful house in Brentwood on South Bristol, like across the street from Al Davis, the owner of the Raiders. And I had my like pizza delivery uniform on because that's where I was going. And you know, he's got this big fancy house, and I met him, and I said, "So Bill, like if I go to Princeton, like can I get a house like this someday?" And he said, "You know, Mark, that's up to you, but it's a step in the right direction." So to the Lucas family, incredibly generous. They've given a lot of money. They've hosted us, Bill and Dowdy Lucas. They deserve to be mentioned here. Community. This community of Princeton volleyball is really an amazing thing. I mentioned John Phelps, mentioned Lauren Montgomery. These are people who I knew growing up, high school, junior high school. John helped get me here. Lauren and I came together. They continue to be very close friends, and the value of that cannot really be put into words. The new friends that I've made here, including Maren Jai and so many other people, we're all fortunate to have gone to school here, and great education, all that stuff. It's about the people for me. The friendships that I maintain, the people I keep in touch with, ski trips every year with a bunch of friends. I was in Tiger Inn, and there's some Tiger Inn guys, some SAE guys because they were Tiger Inn, see each other every year. These are smart people, these are focused people, these are people who live rich lives, and a lot of that is because they had the opportunity to come to Princeton. And what volleyball has meant to me in high school and college cannot be understated, cannot be overstated, I apologize. I learned, first and foremost, once in a while, not very often, I would receive a serve and I would shake it into the bleachers. And there's a big crowd going nuts, like, Hutman, you suck, you know, and there's massive, you know, in Pacific Palisades it was a big deal. And this happened at Princeton once or twice. And it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to melt down and pass the next one in the stands? The coach is going to pull you out? Or are you going to, like, man up, get focused, move your feet, frame your target, and give a nice, oh, this is when we had to pass like this. It was a little harder. Now you can do this. But we also had side out. Anyway, I'm dating myself. So I have a vivid memory of shanking a ball into the stands, and I was like, wow, okay. I want to get served again. And I'm going to move my feet, I'm going to frame my target, and this guy who was serving hit the ball like about 85 miles an hour. The first one, you could understand that was that good of a serve. But the next one kind of happened in slow motion. I saw it come off his hand, I saw the spin, I saw where it was going, I did this, it was like boom, right on the center's hand, a little jump set, kaboom. It was actually a side out then, and suddenly everything was fine. I didn't make another mistake for the rest of the night, and it's that, let the last point go, focus on the next one, move forward. That's a lesson I learned in volleyball, that's a lesson I continue to learn at Princeton. And this is a good thing. Volleyball is very much a team sport. You got 6 people, you can't pass, you can't play. You get a good pass and a bad set, not good either. You can't do it on your own. You can't be LeBron James. Another thing I learned, especially as a captain, referee makes a bad call. You want to strangle the guy. That's against the law. It's not a good play. And you're the captain of the Princeton volleyball team. Like, you're supposed to compose yourself. So what I've learned, the thing to do is, what happened? Instead of saying the things you want to say. They tell you, and you say, I think you missed the call. And you go back, and you forget the last point, and you move on. And you win the game, and you're happy for your community, you're happy for your network, and I'm so grateful to be here tonight. Again, thank you, Sam. Sabrina,